Hi, this is Sibel Edmonds. I would like to take a few minutes and talk about one of the main objectives I have for our coming news organization, Newsbud. Sure, as the name suggests, we will be engaged in reporting. But the question is, reporting on what, why, and how? After all, with hundreds of mainstream publications and thousands of internet based alternatives, providing information and reports is neither novel nor noteworthy. As with everything, the devil is always in the details. Unfortunately, today, reporting, whether by the mainstream media or pseudo alternative outlets, is being controlled and dictated by the establishment. And with that, we have been seeing this pattern of trivial, worthless information being circulated and pumped as crucial, while significant stories are covered up and passed by with, "Move along, folks, ain't nothing here to see." Last Friday, on June 10, we brought to you a presentation on a major story that has seen very little coverage in the media, zero coverage by the networks, or even major YouTube sites. This significant story is directly related to the still a mystery MH17 air disaster over Ukraine 2 years ago. In the midst of Western officials releasing a photo of a piece of the missile that supposedly downed the MH17 passenger plane over Ukraine in 2014, a pair of raids and seizures have been carried out by German-Swiss intelligence officials related to the investigation. The raid in Germany centered on the home of private German detective Joseph Reich, who was hired by a mystery person or persons or a state to carry out a private investigation of the crash. The reason, as everyone who's been paying attention would know, the tainted, partial, and geopolitical agenda-driven investigation led by far from independent or impartial Ukraine and Western states. This PI has been soliciting information since a few months after the incident, offering up to $47 million for solid, well-documented information. $47 million. This is the largest bounty offered in history. Last year, he claimed an informant, an insider with thoroughly documented evidence, had come forward with considerable information. Information that sheds light on how flight MH17 was downed and by whom. In the raid on his home in Germany, officials reportedly seized explosive documents which could shed new light on the downing of the plane. There was a second related raid in Switzerland targeting Reich's safe deposit box. Obviously, the information provided to this PI was significant enough to fetch $47 million, right? And obviously, what this PI, gathered with this $47 million was explosive enough to warrant 2 raids and seizures, right? Obviously, intelligence officials and investigators became nervous enough to conduct 2 major raids, right? And obviously, the timing of the recovery and release of the supposed Russian-made missile part somehow coincided with these eyebrow-raising raids. Are you with me so far? Yet, while we are able to find thousands of news articles and analysis and commentaries on the supposed smoking gun, Russian missile part, we find zilch on this raid and seizure story. Why is that? Why? How come? Is the client a nation state, let's say Russia? If so, why has the client been sitting on the bounty-driven, explosive documented info for over a year? Well, these logical questions, paired up with the obvious significance of the raid and seizure targeting the German PI investigating the case, the mysterious client, probably a state with a stake, fueled us with the determination and energy to delve into this case, conduct our own research, interview our correspondent partner journalist in Germany, Christoph Jürmann, and quickly put together the first video presentation ever on this case. This is how I am determined to challenge, and counter this long-held practice of censoring significant stories with this common "ain't nothing here to see, folks, move along" attitude by the establishment-controlled media. This is not only a career objective for me, it is also highly personal. During my entire Kafkaesque case, from receiving 2 separate invocations of state secrets privilege to having the United States Congress being officially gagged by the Justice Department in my case, I also first-handedly experienced the uniform censorship of my case by the media, this very same media. The media gave the public their usual "ain't nothing here to see, folks, move along" line. Please allow me to provide you with a brief overview of the case that was declared by the media as "nothing to see, hear, or know about." I was declared and became known as the most classified person in U.S. history through 2 invocations of the state secrets privilege, an official gagging of the entire U.S. Congress, and classification of everything about me and everything that was related to my case. Here is how and why I earned this ludicrous title. In October 2002, Attorney General back then, John Ashcroft, issued a formal order and disseminated it via a press conference. He invoked an explosive and highly arcane executive order known as state secrets privilege in my case. Back then, this privilege had been invoked less than 5 times during the entire history of the nation. The Attorney General invoked the state secret privilege in my case for the 2nd time to prevent me from testifying in a case involving a $100 trillion action filed in 2002 by 600 9/11 victims' family members against officials of the Saudi government and prominent Saudi citizens. Then came the official gagging of the entire Congress on anything related to my case via a retroactive classification order issued by the Department of Justice. I'm going to read from one of these sites that publicized this case. An email released today is raising question about an unusual Justice Department decision to retroactively classify 2 congressional briefings. The briefings were held between the Senate Judiciary Committee and the FBI in 2002 to discuss the Sibel Edmonds whistleblowers case. The New York Times first reported on the retroactive classification in a May 20, 2004 article. According to the Times, the FBI told congressional officials that it was classifying topics including what languages Ms. Edmonds translated, what types of cases she handled, and what employees she worked with. Even routine and widely disseminated information like where she worked is now classified. And here's the actual letter ordering Congress to shut its mouth. You'd think the people's right to know would mean something to the media, no? The answer is no. The media consistently blacked out and censored a case written by multiple SSP invocations, gag orders, and much more. Their reporters never posed or answered the question of why. So yes, I do know, I personally do. Similar classification and gag orders and even evidence shredding cases were also blacked out and eventually completely dropped by the prostitutes. Remember the Abel Danger case? The classified military planning effort led by the U.S. Special Operations Command, SOCOM, and the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, which years before 9/11 had supposedly identified 2 of 3 al-Qaeda cells active in the 9/11 attacks? Well, one of the main whistleblowers in the case, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shafer, was gagged, prevented from providing testimony to Congress, stripped of his security clearance, and much more. The government went as far as shredding 2.5 terabytes of data, of evidence, to block the truth on the biggest terrorism incident in the United States. Why did the Pentagon destroy 2.5 terabytes of Al Qaeda related intelligence gathered by the Able Danger data miners? 12 plus years later, we still don't know, thanks to our media saying, "Ain't nothing to see here, folks, move along." Speaking of major cases involving raid and seizure and shredding and destruction of documented evidence, let's briefly mention the Tinner CIA nuclear black market case. Frederick Tinner is a Swiss nuclear engineer connected with Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan, AQ Khan, father of Pakistan's nuclear weapons, and his nuclear network trafficking in the proliferation of nuclear materials and centrifuge designs to Iran, Libya, and North Korea. In 2006, Tinner was revealed by the IAEA's investigators as the foreign director and technical head of the Libyan nuclear program. Swiss engineer Urs Tinner was arrested in Germany in 2004 and was extradited to Switzerland in 2005. His father, Frederick, and brother Marco were also arrested by the Swiss authorities on suspicion of breaking the law on war materials by illegally exporting nuclear bomb-making equipment to Libya. But here is where the story got really interesting. During the investigation and trials, it became clear that the Tinners, the Tinner family, were on the CIA's payroll and had been working with the US for years. And with that began a chain of mockery trials and destruction of evidence, including feeding evidence documents into shredders. We are not talking about a few pages or a few hundred pages here, folks. We are talking 30,000 plus pages, aka evidence, being shredded. It seems more likely that the real explanation for the destruction of the documents is that the CIA had an interest in the Tinner trial not proceeding. The United States had urged that the files be destroyed, according to interview with 5 current and former Bush administration officials. The purpose, the officials said, was less to thwart terrorists or national security than to hide evidence of a clandestine relationship between the Tinners and the CIA. Before the Tinner files were shredded, the Swiss Justice Minister Christopher Blocher flew to Washington to meet with Alberto Gonzales, then the U.S. Attorney General. This was in July 2007. Blocher also met FBI Director Robert Mueller and Mike McConnell, the Director of National Intelligence, and because these two had domestic jurisdiction in the U.S., it implies that there were U.S. citizens implicated in the Tinner files. Maybe those are names that the CIA did not want revealed. The Americans were also present, according to the international officials. The Americans were involved in the destruction, the shredding. They were calling the shots, he said, a former senior IAEA official. And then the same official says, "I'm quite astonished. It's very unusual to see people destroying, shredding documents like this." Like many other significant stories, the Tinner story has also been shoved into a black hole by the establishment and its tentacles, the media. As with other important cases, the media slogan for this case has also been, "Ain't nothing to see here, folks, move along." So I, Sibel Edmonds, pledge publicly that our coming news organization, Newsbud, will be challenging and countering the establishment media's censorship and blackout via their common practice of "ain't nothing to see here, move along, folks." We have more or less 1 week left in our fundraising campaign for a 100% people-funded media with integrity, where there will be no corporate money, no advertisement, no foundation bribery, no partisan agenda money. I'm counting on all of you, the irate minority, to challenge and counter misinformation and propaganda with us. Please do your share. Join us and pledge today. The link to our Kickstarter campaign page will be provided with this video post, so please check it out. Thank you all.
A big time update for the Newsbud Kickstarter campaign. Newsbud has reached and exceeded our goal for this fundraising campaign. Newsbud would like to thank each and every one of you out there who has pledged your support and shared our message. Without you, this one-of-a-kind, people-powered media operation would not be possible. So thank you all from Newsbud. Newsbud would like to convey a very important message to all of our supporters out there. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. But also, this campaign is not over. We still have a few days left to establish a safety cushion because you never know what could happen and we don't want any last-minute surprises. So for those of you who have pledged your donation, you can always increase your donation at any time before this campaign expires. For those of you who have not yet donated, we encourage you to do so now. As long as Newsbud can remain above the stated goal before the campaign expires, we will be operational very soon. In fact, Newsbud already is operational. We produce multiple videos, interviews, analysis, articles, and I hope you're ready for a lot more of it because we're ready. Newsbud isn't comprised of fundraisers. This isn't our main field of expertise. And once we conclude this Kickstarter campaign, we can focus on what we do best and what we're here to do. And that is to provide you the news that the mainstream media and even the alternative media is being paid not to report on. So again, from all of us at Newsbud, thank you.